Backpacking was my bright idea. I never thought it would end this way. Most dads with a teenager just go camping. They drive out to a spot, set up a tent, fish on the lake, cook hot dog chili. But I grew up hearing my dad's stories about backpacking as a boy in the 70s, and I hold on to this deep regret of not ever going myself. In a time filled with so much technology, so much screen time, I do everything I can to send my kid outdoors to build valuable real-life skills. But Thomas would argue that today's real-life skills involve talking into a phone 24/7 on TikTok. The agreement for this trip was no cell phone, but I bought him a GoPro to talk into so he could at least come back with some content. I'm always looking for balance with Thomas. We recently moved to California, and right away I started making plans for an autumn backpacking trip through the Santa Lucia Mountains that would spit us out after a few days into Big Sur. Everybody talks about the beauty there, where the cliffs meet the ocean. I still hope to get there someday. The first day of our trip was mostly driving, followed by one final shower at the Budget Inn in El Camino Royale. When I checked in, the guy at the counter asked if we were experienced hikers. I guess our bright clothes from RAI were easy to spot. And so I started to explain, and he smiled, an odd, hollow smile, and simply said, "Mind the Dark Watchers, then." Oh, we're not a ghost story kind of family. They don't care what kind of people you are. They'll be watching. You'll see them on the ridge, in the trees. Don't approach them. Avert your eyes. Stay on the trail and leave nothing but footprints. That night in the uncomfortable twin bed of the motel, I had a dream. It didn't make much sense at the time, but I stood on the surface of the moon, which shrank at a terribly quick rate. The darkness of the sky ate everything around me, but the sun was coming around. And as the moon got to about the size of a car, giant fingers came from behind and slid over the dusty surface between my legs. I did everything to maintain my balance, but I was being moved, lifted, the ground quaking beneath my feet. And then the fingers burst into a heatless flame as the giant's head came into view. The sun, a giant yellow fireball, cracking, breaking, perfect white, escaping in beams so bright that they felt as vacant as the dark void around us. I raised my arms up to shield my eyes from the intensity, an opening as if to speak, but without any sound. A wall of light and fire silently exploded past the moon, taking everything but my bones and a spattering of floating dust particles. Part of the deal with backpacking is getting an early start. A 5:30 breakfast at the 24-hour diner, one last sip of coffee, and then off to the visitors center at the trailhead to park, sign in, and head on our way. Once I logged our names, date, and time, the woman behind the counter asked a few more questions about our projected path and timeline. And when we finished, I realized Thomas was no longer standing with me. He was off in the corner of the room speaking with a ranger. As I approached, I could hear the tail end of their conversation. "That doesn't sound like a very good gift," Thomas was saying. "Well, the greatest gift for those who dwell in nature is respect for the environment. The rocks are a sign, but an even better sign is putting out your fires, picking up your trash, and we like to say leaving nothing but footprints. Take nothing but memories." "Hey, we're all set, buddy," I interjected with a brash whisper. "Well, fine talking with you, Thomas." "Yeah, you too." Thomas tossed his backpack on, clipping the belt as we walked out the door, the ranger still calling after us. "Remember, only footprints, and maybe a little gift." We hiked 10 solid miles that day, soaking in the sounds of birds and frogs and bugs. Being our first night on the trail, we set up camp early in a small clearing just off the path. "What was that ranger talking to you about, Thomas?" Oh, that Dark Watcher stuff again. Huh. It feels like they're really trying to force the whole urban legend thing. I don't know. The ranger said they've seen them in these parts since like the 30s. Hey, you didn't use your GoPro today. No, I know. I want to save it for when we get a little further in. I only have a few batteries. Having some time with Thomas to sit and talk was healing. We cooked up some dogs, hung by the fire till the sun set, and then as the forest started to come alive in the darkness, we shuffled off to Buffalo around 8:30. That night, I had the dream again. Only this time, Thomas was there. The moon, or the rock that we were standing on, was shrinking, and we were both trying to keep our balance. I knew the sun was coming, and I tried to shield Thomas. I tried to block him from the rays that would destroy us. The massive fingers slid around our shrinking platform, and I felt the head of the thing, the sun, blaring, sweltering, rising to meet us, tanning our skin. I shouted to Thomas that we had to jump into the abyss, into the nothingness. But no words came out, just a maddening silence. I waved, I pleaded, and I counted to 3 and jumped, turning in space as the blast from the sun god's face obliterated my child into particles of ash and bone as I drifted into the black void of space. I woke up before first light. Unwilling to go back to sleep, I stepped out of my tent to find Thomas sitting by the glowing remains of the fire pit. Strange dreams had woken him as well. With nothing else to do, we started packing up, ready to hit the trail as soon as the dawn light would allow. We weren't on the path but 20 minutes when we saw it.
Dad! Shit, Dad, look!
Language!
Dad, do you see that? Look at the sun!
I turned and looked up at the bright ball in the mist, peeking up over the top of the trees across the valley. Obstructing it was a dark shape, the silhouette of a man with a long cloak and a wide-brimmed hat.
Is that a person?
Nah, they'd have to be 30 feet tall. It's got to be some kind of rock up there.
Dark Watcher,
Thomas whispered. We stood and stared for a moment before I decided we needed to push forward. The shape never moved, just stood, watched. Thomas made a little video after trying to capture the image on his GoPro. Hey guys, so I'm out here hiking with my dad, hiking in the Santa Lucia Mountains, and we just saw a Dark Watcher. I tried to capture it with my GoPro here, but the lens is too wide. I'll try and zoom in on the footage. Have you guys ever seen a Dark Watcher? Let me know in the comments. At least he was using the thing. Thomas filmed little clips here and there throughout the day, which made me really happy. Chasing lizards, filming interesting angles of trees, and stacking rocks when we broke for lunch. Hey, where'd you learn to do that? I've seen people stacking on TikTok. When I first downloaded it, I somehow got into like a meditation talk thread and got kind of obsessed. That's incredible, Thomas. This is all about balance, Dad. The big one can stand on end because the smaller one evens out the lump on that side. It's going to be our gift. You're not going to be able to hike with those. A gift for the Dark Watchers. The ranger said it was a good idea to keep them happy. Ah. Well, okay. Hey, look, if my kid's happy stacking rocks for a shadow we thought looked cool, fine. Let him be happy, right? I thought so too. But after our second stint of hiking for the day, things changed drastically. The sun was starting to set when we first heard the waterfall. This is what hiking is all about. The unexpected adventure, right? Hey, come on, Thomas, if we cut through here... Dad, you have to stay on the path. It's too late. We can find it tomorrow. Come on, where's your sense of adventure? This is what we're out here for. I cut a sharp left, hopped over a log, and started crunching through the underbrush. You're gonna miss some awesome shots. I bet we'll be able to catch the sunset from here. Not wanting to be left alone on the darkening path, Thomas finally followed, GoPro in hand. Hey guys, the sun is setting and we should be setting up camp, but my dad heard the sound of a waterfall and we're gonna go check it out. I hope the Dark Watchers don't mind. We're off the path. Anything could happen. It didn't take long for the woods to fall dark. But with the edge in sight, we kept pushing forward. This is gonna be beautiful. I can see the clouds. Can you see them? They look like... Yeah, it looks like fire in the sky. Fire in the sky. These words stopped me cold. My dream. Was it a warning? We were about to walk out onto a cliffside at sunset with fire. Snooze you lose, Dad! Thomas cheered as he pushed past me. Let's hang back. I didn't think this through, buddy. We came this far. Let's go, old man. Thomas, don't run! I shouted after him, starting to run myself. It's just up here! Thomas, no! I watched as he broke out into the remaining daylight, standing at the roaring mouth of the pastel-painted waterfall. And as I joined him, we stood breathless at the edge of oblivion. The overwhelming power of the endless water cascading over the cliffside could only be described as a perpetual rocket launch, both in the sound and how it looked. Red and yellow fire replaced with the blue and white of the frigid water. A deep, unsettling tension rose in my chest and throat, not only from the sound, but the realization of how small and weak humans are next to nature's power. The cliff wasn't the largest I've ever seen, but for someone who has a tough time with skyscrapers, this was high enough to set off the mental alarms. 50, maybe 60 feet high. Enough to kill a person, or at least shatter their bones. But the height of the cliff wasn't what caused us to retreat, nor the waterfall itself. It was the dark, unmistakable shadows of the watchers lining the adjacent cliffside. Dad, I couldn't speak. I grabbed Thomas by the shoulder and backed him into the cover of the trees. Grab the lanterns, we gotta get back to the path. But it was too late. We had let excitement take over, and it didn't take much time to realize. We were lost. The sun now fully set, the forest started to come alive with new sounds. Sounds you ignore when you're in the safety of a campsite, warm and cozy by the fire. Footsteps, wings flapping, sticks breaking. This once serene getaway turned into a noisy metropolis the moment the sun went down. And we were in over our heads. With our lanterns held high, we started walking when something sharp penetrated my kneecap, and I let out a shout that silenced the crickets, if only for a moment. Toppling rocks shook the underbrush with a thunderous pounding against the soft earth. I staggered, trying to catch my balance against another nearby rock, and sent it toppling as well, and it left me careening face first into a third. I could taste the iron in my blood gushing like the waterfall from my brow and the bridge of my nose. Thomas ran to my side, adding light from his lantern to the one that I had sent rolling a few feet in front, revealing the dozens of stacked rocks as far as the light could reach. "Dad, your face!" was the last thing I heard before the weight of my eyes took over and I slipped into the darkness of my mind. A blip is how I would explain it. Lost time, a blink for me, but for Thomas, I don't know how long. I regained consciousness to bright, hot light, not coming from above the trees, but from the ground around us. Thomas? Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. You were shivering, the temperature dropped, and I tried to make us a fire. The flames grabbed up the trees to the right and spread through the rock stacks to the left. "We have to go now," I shouted, pushing myself up on another stack of rocks that toppled under my weight, crushing my hand against the ground. I pulled, but the jagged edges sunk into my skin. "Tom! My hand! I'm stuck!" The sound of the tumbling rocks didn't stop. The ground shook with a monstrous growl, the trees swaying. An earthquake? No. Worse. Footsteps. Thomas looked up from kicking the dirt over the growing flames as the treetops parted and a massive hand came out of the darkness, grabbing him around his waist and lifting him away. I could feel my screaming ripping at my throat, but no sound reached my ears. The flames were licking at my neck now as I pulled my hand from beneath the boulder, stripping the skin from my fingers. But I felt no pain either. I ran to where Thomas had been, vocal cords splitting, but there was nothing but infinite darkness beyond the dancing flames. The fire began to take everything, growing at a startling rate that left me sprinting forward, blindly towards the dark, with the glow at my back. The sound rushed back into my ears, and trading one fear for another, I knew what I had to do. There was only one way to survive. Dodging the trees, I ran, screaming from the pain of my exposed tendons, clinging my peeled hand to my wet, sticky shirt. The forest parted, soft dirt turned to stone, and with the roar of the waterfall enveloping everything, I dove into the dark unknown, turning back in space, watching the fire blasting away everything but the bones of the forest that took my son.
Haunting Season was created by me, Joshua Sterling Bragg, and is a joint production of Believe Limited and Matt Gielan. Executive produced by Matt Gielan, Ryan Gielan, and Patrick James Lynch, and produced by Greg Holtzman. Creative support by Mel Forrest, Cody Dugan, Courtney Barber, and Jessica Richmond, and the Haunting Season theme song and other select music is made by North Innsbruck. The editing and sound design is done by Colby Crow. This episode was written, performed, and directed by Joshua Sterling Bragg. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe and visit the official Haunting Season TikTok for daily horror movie reviews, hauntings, folklore, and urban legends.